Norton Brewery, 12 days, original porter.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is yet another one from the House of Trembling Madness Christmas beer case. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's been a bit of a fucking chore getting through all that lot. Not really impressed by the selection, not really impressed by the individual beers that much. Do any of them really stand out as being really good? I would say the only one that did for me was the C84 or the Great Yorkshire Brewery Santa's Tipple. That was the only one I really liked, and it was the only one that really, in my opinion, was in keeping with the style of a Christmas beer. Now, this lot, Norton, they've got a good reputation, and I've reviewed a few of their beers on the channel, and they're quite a good brewer. They go back to the 1800s, and they do like their traditional beers. They do brew some new style American IPA type beers, but they do brew some half decent British or English stuff, I should say. But they've fallen again for this trap. Now, yesterday I was reviewing the Ridgeway. I think it was called Santa's Butt, was it? But it was a porter. But it was basically, in a blindfold test, what I would consider a porter. Lots of roasted malt, not much else. However, if you looked at the label, had all the jolly holly flim flam that they put on these labels. Thankfully, this lot ain't done it. But to me, it just tasted like a rebadged porter, and they tried to pass it off as a Christmas beer. And I think this is what Norton are trying to do here, because they've called it 12 days. Thankfully, there's no fucking holly and all that Christmas bollocks on it. But they've actually said it's a porter, and a few of these brewers that I'm reviewing, they've got this Christmas porter thing going on now, which is a new one on me. Porter was never really a Christmas beer. I know I keep mentioning it in every video, but for me, Christmas beer is dark, yes, but then it's more fruity. It's got elements of molasses, like sweet invert sugar flavour on it as well. It's not bitter, it's quite a nice drink, and it's high ABV as well. And a lot of them were falling short of it. Don't get me started on the Christmas IPA. You know my views on that if you've looked at the review. But I've got a little bit of a hope for this one, because Norton are a good brewer. I've got Percy trying to get in, and now he normally hangs about when there's an half decent beer being opened. He must have a sixth sense. I don't know why, because he's fucking hopeless at everything else. He's the most dumbest dog I have ever come across. But he's our dumb dog, and we love him. This one, again, I'm a bit nonplussed at the moment when it comes to Christmas beers. Sadly, I haven't been able to get hold of the German Christmas beers that I was hoping to get over, because my mate, who was supposed to be coming over, COVID has just put a fucking blocker on that, and now I've got to get through all this Christmas stuff. And I silly bought him a Christmas hamper, the Christmas case from the House of Trembling Madness, thinking there'd be some good ones in there. And to be honest, there fucking hasn't. It's pretty poor. And here he is. He doesn't know whether to come in or not, because sometimes I tell him to get out. Here he is. What's up, Perce? What's going on, mate? Come sit up here. Give us your verdict on this one. Oh, Jesus Christ, you've been getting heavy, mate. What do you think of this one? Hey? Not really impressed with that, are you? Hey? Get out of it. I know where that tongue's been, mate, and it ain't pleasant. Again, slightly more optimistic with this one, but there are some in that hamper that I would not fucking go for at all. And I do question why. And that's Trinity Madness know their beers. They're not fucking stupid. I think this is all the beer they can't get rid of, and they've just pumped it into that one, or they know it's not going to sell. And the cynic in me says that a lot of these brewers are trying to get rid of some beer that is not going to sell, and it's probably going to go out of date by the new year. So they put this Christmas marketing flim flam all over it, and trying to pass it off as a Christmas beer. But there you go. And I'll put him down because he's fucking heavy. Jesus Christ, Paris, what have you been eating, mate? Fucking hell. Your arm's killing me. But it has got some interesting ingredients, which again is what I'm sort of clinging on to, the little bit of hope that I've got. So let's get on to the next section. I'll tell you about the ingredients. Right, I'll just give you a quick rundown of what it is. It's a 500ml bottle. It is 5.5%. Not bad. Would have preferred, the 6% or over for a Christmas beer. 12 days is a strong dark brown beer. Now they've called it a porter. See, this is where, porter's normally black, in my opinion, or very, very, very dark ruby, to the point where it looks black from a distance. You have to hold it up to the light to see it. They're saying this is a dark brown beer. Well, if it's a porter, then, you're stretching it there. Offering a dominantly malty palate with nutty overtones, giving way to a lyrical sweetness that speaks for its strength. Cheers. Now, I had a similar one yesterday with the Ridgeway Christmas porter. Or no, it was a Christmas winter. Was it winter's welcome or something like that? But effectively, it was a porter, and it gave it all this spiel about the fruit on it and all that. Nothing of the salt. They said it had orange zest in it. Couldn't get none of that. They said it had the sugar that's like molasses. For the life of me, I can't remember. This is what happens when you get old and you drink too much beer. But it's one of them ones where it talks a good fight and then it really doesn't deliver. And I'm sort of thinking this is going to be the same. It says full-bodied lyrical sweetness. So it's making a big thing about the sweetness. It says it looks dark, or dark red brown. Okay. Smell rich fruit, sultanas. Taste full malty, slight nuttiness. Okay, well, if that's what they're saying, I'll give you a quick rundown of what's the ingredients, right? There's 3 types of hops in here. They've got Challenger hops, excellent hop for English beers. Love it. Great in bitters as well. It's what gives it that nice hoppy bitterness and the spiciness, the peppery spiciness on there. The other hop they've got in here is Goldings. It doesn't say which type of Goldings. English Goldings. They're everywhere in English top fermented beer. You see it all the time, certainly in the darker beers. And you've got Fuggles as well. Again, another mainstay of British brewing. You see them again a lot in the top fermented British ales. The malt's quite interesting. It's got pale malt, which is the base malt. You also have crystal malt, which is a slightly sweet malt because it's gone through half of its germination process. It's produced the sugar and it's basically kilned with the sugar on it, so you get a nice sweetness coming from that malt. There's chocolate malt on there as well. Self-explanatory. Tastes like chocolate, or has chocolate overtones to it. And there's also a malt in here called enzymic malt. What is that? Well, enzymic malt, or enzymic, however you want to pronounce it. I'm pronouncing it enzymic because I'm not fucking American. But it's a malt that they use now and again. You don't see it that often, but you see it in certain German beers. And basically what it does, it has the effect of reducing the pH in the grist. So why would you want to do that? Apparently, it improves extract. So if you've got hop extract and stuff like that, it will improve that. It will also improve the conversion process where the yeast are eating the sugars from the malt, and it will also improve flavour and stability as well. Now, if that's the case, why don't they use that in every brew that's ever made? Because it sounds great, doesn't it? I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but it's in there. They're probably the only ones that have made mention of it, because I've not seen that before. I don't think. It may well have been in other beers, but you never see that mentioned in the ingredients, but they've got it mentioned there for some reason. I don't know why they have, but it's there. And yeah, that's about it really. So let's get it open. Let's see what's going on. Right, there's no mention of any adjuncts in there, which doesn't mean there aren't any, but there's no sugar that I'm seeing. So where this sweetness is coming from must be the crystal malt, which again makes me think that possibly this isn't going to be as sweet as they're making out. And there's, oh, I can't show you the cap because they've put a fucking price tag over it. And someone scraped it off. I don't know who that is. Not me. You can buy this online for £3. I'll be the judge of whether this is worth £3 or not. Well, that is fizzy. Very fizzy. And for once, I'll give them that. Now they called it a porter. Now if you look at that colour, that actually is what I would expect a ruby ale to look like. Or even a Christmas beer as well. That does look quite nice. Doesn't look like a porter, and it smells really fruity as well. Really fruity. Nice roasted malt on that. Quite sweet, but very fruity. See, it's smelling half decent now, and it's looking more like a winter beer, a winter warmer, an old ale, call it whatever you want. I don't know why they called it a porter though. Because it's not. I mean, look at that. It does look dark, I will say that, and the camera's probably not doing it justice. But can you see that? There's a red down there. And if I hold it up to the light, that really does look red. So, yeah, I wouldn't have called that a porter. What has made them call that a porter? Maybe it's watered down with something else? Who knows? I don't know. But it certainly looks nice. And the aroma's lovely. Lots of roasted malt. Very sweet. Sweet fruit on there. Like sweet dark fruit. As they say, raisins and sultanas. It smells quite nice. Let's see what it's like on the palate. Bottoms up. Now that is nice. That is a nice beer. There's a lovely bit of sweetness on that, but they haven't mentioned any invert sugar. Wow, finish on that. Real roasted malt finish. That's probably why they're calling it a porter, because it has got that real big roasted malt finish. Bitter roasted malt finish. And ingredients: water, barley, malt and hops. I don't have to list everything on there, do I? I'm sure there's sugar in that. It's very sweet. But it's got a long, lingering, roasted malt flavour. But it's really nice, I have to say. Full-bodied as well. Again, as I say, on the palate, you don't get that big roasted malt bitterness. On the finish, you're getting a mixture of the hop bitterness and the roasted malts, which make it really nice, and that flavour just lingers and lingers on the aftertaste. I'm really liking this. This is the one saving grace from that Christmas case of beer. It's really good. Quite Moorish as well, I have to say. Really flavoursome. Lovely, big fruity flavours on the palate. Quite sweet on the palate as well. On the finish though, that's where your roasted malt comes in and the hop bitterness. That's what you're left with. It's weird. It's like definitely like a winter warmer on the palate. A lot of sweetness. But then that finish, it just screams stout or porter, which is nice. It's a nice combination of the two beers. Oh, it's so good. And that's getting better as it's going down. Now this is chilled. It's come out of the fridge, I've let it stand, I've fed the dogs and the cats, came back up here. This room's quite warm, I've got the heating on because it is fucking freezing out there. And it's shaping up to be a really nice beer. I do like this. This is probably just the right temperature. This is what you get it from a pub, cellar temperature. Unless you have a temperature controlled cellar, then in winter, that's the sort of temperature you'd get out of cask that's stored in a cellar. God, I'm absolutely loving this. It's quite complex as well. I'm getting quite a lot of fruit on there. Sweet fruit, sweet dark fruit like raisins. As they say, sultanas, you can definitely get that. No real orange zest, but I think there's some invert sugar on that as well. All that sweetness. Yeah, you do get some sugar coming from the crystal malt, but I think there's a little bit of invert on there too. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter. That's really nice. I would question the label of porter. The finish does remind me of it being a porter, but I would say, looking at it, I mean, can you see that? It's a very dark beer, but it's not a porter. It's not. Hasn't got that. Percy wants to get out there. What do you want to get out for? You better not have a dump in the kitchen. And what happened last time? When he had a dump in the kitchen, I chased him around the house with it. He did not like that at all. Anyway, moving along from chasing the dog around with his own turds. It was in a bit of kitchen towel, by the way. It wasn't in my hand. I'm not that much of a fucking savage, but yeah, he didn't like it. I crept up with him. He looked like he had a cigar hanging out of his mouth. Yeah, it's disgusting. I know. I'll just fucking reverse out of that cul-de-sac. I'm going to add one last dive in and give you the conclusion. Yeah, initial mouthful, sweet, fruity, quite malty as well. The finish, it's all roasted malt, hop bitterness. Lovely. That's really nice. So, what is the verdict on Hook Norton 12 Days? Well, that is the saving grace from that House of Trembling Madness Christmas abomination that they're punting out at the moment. That's a toss-up between that and the C84 Santa's Tipple as being the best. Because why are they the best? Well, they're the two beers in that so far, and I don't think the others are going to be like that because they're pale ales and IPAs and fuck knows what else. But they're the only two beers that actually remind me of a Christmas beer. They've got all the credentials of a Christmas beer. Everything else is just fucking marketing. I could have a shootout actually because I've got a bottle of that Santa's Tipple, I think, or have I polished it off? I think I've polished that off. But I've got another bottle of this 12 Days. I'm going to relish that because this is nice, and I'm going to finish that because that really is a nice beer. I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10 because it's a mixture of the two beers that I really like. I mean, it's calling it original porter. I wouldn't have called it that. I would have called it a Christmas ale or a winter warmer at least, because it's ticking all them boxes. That to me doesn't look like a porter. I mean, can you see what I'm saying? There's a ruby element to that, a ruby colour, dark red, whatever you want to call it. And as I say, it's got the malt in there, nice fruity flavours. The ABV could do with it being a little bit higher than 5.5%, but that's just a minor gripe. Again, these Christmas beers, I think they're being mislabelled. That's certainly mislabelled, but I'm not going to moan too much about that because at the end of the day, that is a good beer. And I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. I think that's a worthy 9 out of 10. And Hook Norton, again, they're a good brewer. They do some good beers. And I don't think I've had a bad one from Hook Norton, or have I? I reviewed if you do a search on the channel, you'll see a lot of Hook Norton beers on there. And they've all been good because they're a good brewer. They're a traditional brewer. They've been going since the 1800s. They actually, they come across as they care about what they brew. They tend not to pump out a load of shit. That's won quite a few awards as well. A lot of silver awards over the years. 1 gold in 2009, and these are all, I think these are SIBA awards, the Society of Independent Brewers, and they're a credible organisation in my opinion, and they've given that a silver quite a lot over the last sort of 2010s and upwards, and rightly so. It's a great beer. I don't know what this is like on cask, and they do it on cask as well. Don't think you'll be able to get it round here. I'm fucking certain that if I do get it round here, I will be drinking gallons of it, because I can only imagine it'll be great on cask. But this isn't bad at all. I really do like it. And as I say, that is a 9 out of 10. That is definitely recommended. But buy it on its own. Don't buy it in that fucking Christmas case that the House of Trembling Madness are doing, because you will have to wade through dog shit to find the diamonds. And remember, beer is working class champagne.